Everybody, welcome in. The president's got an 11 o'clock meeting with his national security team at the White House in the Situation Room. There are a lot of phone calls taking place between world leaders, including many with Netanyahu, many with the president, European leaders, and House and Senator out. Abrego Garcia has a 10 o'clock court hearing in Nashville. Sean, what happens next?
On which front, Mark? I mean, that's sort of like
You pick.
uh,
Do you give us one or two things that you think will happen today, or you're looking to see if they happen?
I think the attention is going to shift to Israel and Iran and what happens there. That's going to take center stage because of the action that's going to occur over there. I think that's going to shift a lot of the news attention. And we talked about this yesterday, foreshadowing what could happen. I think how Iran escalates is going to be the name of the game today. What they do or don't do is going to matter.
Dan.
Yeah, I think in addition to that, and I'm going to mispronounce this, did Israel wipe out is it Fedora nuclear site, which seems to be the big one, the one that's buried half a mile under a mountain where the really sophisticated centrifuges are. If they didn't, or either were not successful or didn't even attempt to get it, then where are we?
Okay. Joining us now, Mike Cranoff, a member of the two-way community who splits his time between the United States, where he was raised, and Tel Aviv, where he lives now with his family. Michael, welcome. Tell us about your evening and what you're seeing today.
Been quite a day, Mark. First of all, I got 3 kids in the military, so I've got a lot invested in this. But we were awoken about 3 in the morning by a siren, much like we were awoken by a siren on October 7th, and many since, I should say. But this one was different because we looked at our phones and we didn't have a pre-warning that there was a rocket coming from Yemen or something like that. And it just said, stay near a shelter, basically, because something major is going on and we don't know what will happen next. And then we turned on the news and we saw that there were strikes in Iran. And then 5 minutes after that, I got a call from my son, who's in Air Force intelligence, who we haven't seen for a few days, who said, "Don't worry about me. I'm in safety. Take care of yourselves. I have everything I need for the next few days. If you don't hear from me, it'll be fine." And that was our day. Our day began at 3 o'clock, and then I turned on the Stanley Cup Finals. So
we're grateful to you for joining us. Are you where are you now? In your home or your office?
Yeah, I'm in my home office, and the big white door behind me right there is our safe room. So that's where we go if there's a siren, and we've gotten plenty of use out of that over the last 18 months. But aside from the confusion at the beginning when we thought we were supposed to go in there when we woke up, unbelievably, we haven't had to be in there so far today. We don't know, obviously, what's going to happen next, and there's I'm sure a lot more chapters to be written here, but so far, our military appears to be performing in an unbelievable way, and I think from what I've already read, this is going to be something that'll be in the history books and people will be reading about decades from now.
Michael, can I just ask?
Go ahead, Sean.
I was going to say, with respect to the safe room, are you elevated? Like, are you in an apartment building on the X floor, or I'm trying to figure out what constitutes a safe room. Is it concrete reinforced? Look, I'm wondering where you guys physically are.
Yeah, every home in Israel has to have a safe room. Some of the older ones don't, and they make other provisions. But we have a private home, and I'm in the basement floor, and that's reinforced concrete, very, very secure, and on the lower level. So it should be pretty safe. People who are in large buildings and apartment buildings, things like that, usually it's the stairwell that's reinforced, and people go and congregate there when there's a siren.
2 more questions for me, then turn you over to Dan, then more from Sean, and then we'll take some community questions for you, Michael. And again, grateful to you for joining. I've read that there have been 100 drones, Iranian drones. Have there been any attacks on Israel that you've seen?
I've read the same thing you've read, and my understanding is that we have successfully intercepted all of them so far.
Amazing. All right. Last night or this morning, depending on where you are, you sent me a recommendation to join a WhatsApp group. Just tell people about that group because I put it in my Substack, but trust me, y'all should join this. Just explain what it is and explain why people should join it.
It's called BNN, not CNN, but BNN, the Bernie News Network. Bernie is a guy from New Jersey who moved to Israel, I think, as a college student and was a news junkie and started this site basically just to inform friends and family of news that he was seeing, and gradually started getting sources off of Telegram channels and other things where you can pick stuff up a little earlier than mainstream media. And then started doing some analysis and grew it. And I think I found him to be incredibly professional, reliable, and very, very fast. And an aggregation of a lot of the things that are in the Israeli press, the Hebrew press, as well as some of the intelligence stuff that gets public one way or another. And it's a pretty good resource.
It's called BNN, and Michael told me to add it. Michael told me about 5 or 6 hours ago, maybe 7 or 8, to add it to my world. I've added it, and they have stuff ahead of everybody else. They have stuff overnight I've not seen anywhere else. So if you're on WhatsApp, you should add it. If you've never used WhatsApp, there's other ways to access it, but I recommend you do it on WhatsApp because it seems to be where the content goes the quickest, and it's phenomenal.
Just go to Bernie.news.
Yeah, Bernie.news. Dan, questions for Michael.
Michael, so here in the last week or so, there were like little clues beginning to emerge that something may be coming. What was the sense in Israel? Did people feel like, I mean, it's been talked about for years, decades, hitting Iran. Did people feel like this was imminent, or was the Israeli population broadly kind of caught by surprise here?
We were caught by surprise, Dan. The prime minister's son is supposed to get married Sunday night. Nobody thought that this was going to happen ahead of that event. So happens our community is also supposed to have weddings on Sunday and Monday night as well. But nobody thought that was going to happen. I was at an event last night on the beach for a group that brings interns to work in companies, including my company. We have 2 of them coming in for the summer from America. And there was about 150 college-age students there who are participating in this program. We were all having drinks on the beach and chatting about everything under the sun, and not at all about a potential attack on Iran 6 hours after that. So it was chatter, obviously, and we saw what was going on with the American bases and all of that. But first of all, we have had, if I could count the number of times when we thought, well, maybe we're approaching an attack on Iran in the last 20 years. There are a lot of such instances. So, no one that I know thought this was as imminent as it turned out to be.
And there's been, public opinion's been all over the place since in the last 2 years here. Is it your sense the country is unified? Like we had to do this?
I think the answer is an emphatic yes, and I think the answer will be more of an emphatic yes the more people understand what I didn't understand really until I saw some of the reports this morning that we always talked about the fact that Iran was on the threshold for so many years, but when were they going to push to break out and actually create a nuclear weapon? And that was happening, and it seems clear from the reporting this morning that was happening. And so this was not in my mind, in any way an elective operation. This was a matter of survival. Iran has been threatening to destroy Israel since the revolution, 1979. And they devote more resources to trying to kill us than they do to their own people. And they're very clear and upfront about that. And so, I think it has been the consensus across the political spectrum in Israel that under any circumstance, we cannot allow Iran to get a nuclear weapon. And, the lessons of people say, and some of the things that are already coming out about this operation, about how there was a base in Iran that was set up in Mossad with drones. Some of the things just make the beeper operation look like child plays. And I've gotten questions, how does that happen? And my answer really is there's 6 million reasons. Like last century, we saw what happens when we didn't take threats seriously. And we're not doing that anymore. And so, yeah, I think there is enormous broad political consensus in favor of this.
The Prime Minister's office says now that he'll be speaking both to the President of the United States and Putin today. Sean.
Dan asked my question.
Okay. Let's take one or two questions from the community for Michael, if you have them. And then I'm going to run through what the President of the United States has said today. And then we'll go back to some other topics. If you've got a question for Michael, please raise both your electronic hand and your physical hand. If you have a question for Michael, raise both hands. Let's see if there are any. Maybe not. Let's see.
I see Jack up there.
Jack, there you go. Jack, welcome in. Thanks for joining. Remind folks where you're from and question for Michael Granoff in Tel Aviv after you unmute.
Unmute, Jack.
You had it, Jack, and then
Jack, you were unmuted, then you muted quickly.
trigger finger.
Oh, sorry about that.
All good.
I'm from San Antonio, and I was wondering if, in general, the Israeli people have any sense whether President Trump would ultimately send them a bunker bomb, effectively, because I think to seal the deal, that's probably going to be the nature of weapon that it will take to really go after some of those deeply embedded development places.
Yeah, you're right. It's been reported for quite some time that Israel could cause a lot of damage to the nuclear program, but couldn't fully destroy it without without the help of the U.S. because of the B-52s and those really heavy bombs that you talk about. I have no idea what will happen. All the reports I've seen so far today are that it seems like some of the damage that has been done there is beyond what was anticipated. And maybe even more importantly, it seems like whatever was left of the air defense after last year, when there was the exchange, that was one of the top priorities this morning to take out. And therefore, Israel has pretty much free reign of the skies there. So, and the attacks are continuing really up. I saw in the last half hour even. So I don't know the answer scientifically as a matter of physics, whether Israel has what it takes to completely destroy the nuclear facilities. But obviously, we do have political support, which is essential. And so we're grateful for that for sure.
Yeah, Jack, thank you.
There's also reports that Israel has people on the ground in Iran, Assad, and that they are sabotaging. So it is possible they're going to take out Fedorov from the inside, not from the outside. If
you haven't read David Sanger's piece in the New York Times talking about the different facilities and what would it take to actually eradicate the program, you should. Raise your both hands if you've got a question for Michael Granoff. Craig, welcome in. Remind folks where you are and question for Michael.
Hi, I'm in Southwest Florida, and my question is, I think about Trump and Netanyahu both have won recent elections. Netanyahu a bit before he made a comeback, in 2022, right? If either of those elections did not happen, if Netanyahu had not won a coalition again and Trump did not win the November 2024 election, is there a perception that this would have gone down differently, or there'd be a different decision by the Israeli prime minister? Like, I think Yair Lapid was the last prime minister.
It's an interesting question, and I think it's a split decision on that, which is that I think whether the Israeli prime minister was Netanyahu or Naftali Bennett or Yair Lapid, any Israeli prime minister would make this decision. I really believe that because this is an issue, obviously, that is extremely well understood within the political echelon, and as I said before, a matter of survival. So I don't think there is any scenario under which a different Israeli government would do something different. I think, by the way, that goes for actually most of the war of the last 20 months as well. Yeah. But if Trump had not won, that would have been a different universe. And I still think it's likely that Israel would have felt the need to do this because of the issue of survival. But boy, it would have probably been a lot harder, just given the way that unfortunately the democratic politics has turned against us.
Craig, thank you. Michael, very grateful to you. Obviously, hope you and your family are safe, and stay for the hour if you can and chime back in if anything comes up you want to talk about or if the questions you can answer. But we're really grateful to you for making time for us. Thank you. All right. The president, last night, the main response from the administration after the Israeli activity started came from Marco Rubio, who distanced the United States from the operation. Since then, the president has posted on Truth Social, and he's talked to a number of reporters. He's talked to Dana Bash. He talked to Brett Baer last night, and he talked to John Carl also. And the message in the Truth Social post and his 3 conversations have all been pretty much the same, which is Israel's doing a great job, and Iran better negotiate a settlement here because the attacks will get a lot worse. And it doesn't sound like somebody who's distancing himself at all. I would be stunned if if the U.S. were not providing some intelligence, some air support, some intelligence information that is, I would say, vital to the operation, but integral to the operation. But they won't acknowledge that. But the president, I think, leaning pretty hard into the notion that Iran better come to the table and make a deal. The talks with Witkoff, in theory, are still on for this weekend. Most of the media is saying, well, of course, those won't happen. But the president seems to be saying, show up for the talks, and maybe Israel will stop killing all your people and destroying all your capabilities, both nuclear and ballistic missile. So,
well, hold on. It's much bigger than that. The goal is to make sure, both between the statement and the actions of showing up, that this is Israel going after you, not us. Do not attack our assets.
Yeah.
And I think by showing up for the meeting and by putting out that statement from Rubio last night and making sure that it was broadcast wide and far, the message to Iran is, if you have a beef, it's with them, not us.
Yeah. Yeah. Although the United States is
I
now
don't think they
supporting.
believe
Yeah. And I don't know. I mean, it's really, they'd be silly to believe it, because we're obviously the U.S. is obviously helping them, and the president's now made 4 statements cheering them on and
right.
not calling for any restraint. So, but I take your point, Sean. Let's see. It's 9:17. We got a bunch of other stuff that on any other day would be very big. We want to talk about it. So let's shift to some of this other stuff. We'll do it all in 10 minutes or so, and then we'll go back to your questions. If you want to ask questions, you can ask about anything you want, but I suspect a lot of the hands up people want to talk about what's going on in the Middle East. So we'll do that. Well, actually, let's play one more thing because it's important. This is Mr. McGurk, experienced Middle East hand, on CNN this morning, asked the question of what will an Iran counterstrike look like? Here's Mr. McGurk.
Well, Kate, I'd make 3 points. I think the Israelis are calling this Operation Rising Lion. I would call it Operation Kitchen Sink. As you've been reporting, as Sarah just reported, this is airstrikes, sabotage, Mossad, an incredibly extensive operation that is still ongoing. It has eliminated in a single night the entire military command structure of Iran. I just cannot underestimate how significant this is. The head of Iran's military, General Bagheri, the head of their missile and drone program, General Hajizadeh, the head of their National Security Council, Ali Shamkhani, former head but really still acted in that role, and the head of the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, Hussein Salami, who organizes all the proxy groups across the Middle East, Hezbollah, Hamas, and others through the Quds Force. So incredible. Second point, this shows just total intelligence dominance and penetration by Israel into Iran. And that really limits what Iran can do in response here. The people who would have met this morning to figure out how to respond are all dead. So,
all right.
By the way, I just got to say this. I don't know Brett well, but I've had the opportunity to be around him about the command of issue that he has, and it's almost like he enjoys throwing in names. Where he's like the deputy head of finance. In 1972, Abu, like he almost loves just making sure everyone knows how smart he is. But he has such a command of the issue, such a calmness of him. He's a really great diplomat.
Yeah, and CNN and the other cable networks sign up a bunch of people who just because of their resumes. That guy is the real deal. He knows he knows everybody. He knows everything. And I wanted to play it in part because of the point he made that people are waiting for Iran to respond, but they're gonna have to figure out who's going to decide how to respond because Israel has eliminated many of the people, maybe most of the people who would have been at the table for that. All right, Yesterday, Senator Padilla, you all know, showed up at Secretary Noem's press conference and tried to ask some questions and was hauled from the room and handcuffed. The Democrats are certain that this is a turning point for them politically. You've got, as Michael Graham pointed out, in New Hampshire, you've got a bunch of cautious Democratic elected officials who haven't weighed in on almost anything related to this story up until now, all weighing in on behalf of Senator Padilla. You have Chuck Schumer being very strong. John Thune, one of the few Republicans, not going all in on the red side. Most Republicans feel just the opposite, feel like this is a great moment for them. And it kind of depends on where you stand. We broke down the film last night on Two-Way Tonight in a Zapruder style. Here's what I'll say. He clearly was seen as a threat by her security team before he identified himself. And we'll show the video in a minute. It's clear that that's happened. So I'd say point to the Republicans on that, but I still can't understand why they handcuffed him in the hallway. Point to the Democrats on that. But I'll say again what I said last night. This shouldn't be a political fight. It's an unfortunate incident, but people shouldn't go to the mattresses on this would be my preference. Show the tape, then Dan and Sean will comment. This is 113, please.
As our law enforcement officers have been assaulted, they've been pelted with rocks and bricks. Their cars have been set on fire. Molotov cocktails have been used. We have seen people throw bottles and hammers at them. We've also seen that they have been attacked and verbally spit on or punched or assaulted, and it's just not acceptable. The Department of Homeland Security and the officers and the agencies and the departments and the military people that are working on this operation will continue to sustain and increase our operations in this city. We are not going away. We are staying here to liberate this city from the socialist and the burdensome leadership that this governor and that this mayor have placed on this country and what they have tried to insert into this city. So I want to say thank you to every single person that has been able to do this. Also, I want to talk specifically to the rioters and to the politicians in Los Angeles.
A half a dozen violent criminals that you're rotating on your.
I also want to talk about specifically how many of our ICE agents have been doxxed for doing their duty.
Okay, turned off. Okay. Dan, your overall view of this, both in terms of the merits of who is at fault, if anyone, and what political implications do you think it will have going forward?
So on the merits, look, I think everyone kind of loses on this. Like it made me kind of like sad on some level to watch this. I think it was a political stunt by Senator Padilla. If I am looking at this, the best case for Senator Padilla is he comes in, he's caught saying, you know, here are my questions, and she's like, you know, hada, and like he wins, right? He got her. She can't answer my questions. It shows that they're full of you know what. Well, that's a stunt, right? Like you got her. The flip side to this is I've been around a lot of, let's call them political dignitaries. Hillary Clinton, Nancy Pelosi, both of whom were clients. I got to spend a lot of time with their protective detail. They are not partisan people. They are not Gestapo troopers that are under the influence of, you know, Donald Trump. Their job is to protect the dignitary, right? And they take it seriously. After Gabby Giffords was shot, right, after all the crazy times we're in, that is their job. They look for people who might be a little loose, who might try to go at somebody, and their job is to get them away, right? Full stop, that is it. So I am empathetic for what they did. Where I think, Mark, to your point is when they got him in the hallway and then they kind of, you know, and clearly the door was closed, he was surrounded, you know, okay, you could, I don't think it looks good. I think for Democrats, just like a burning car doesn't look good on the immigration topic, a U.S. senator being slammed to the ground and cuffed does not look good to the average person who's going about their life, isn't watching the full tape, John Madden style, to break it down. So I think Padilla was a little wrong to do what he did, but it's not good to pin a U.S. senator.
Okay, before Sean weighs in on all this, just again, going forward in the most crass, craven, rational political analysis, does either side come out with an advantage after yesterday from that incident?
No,
Thank you.
both sides don't look good.
No further questions, Your Honor. Sean.
God, I almost want to let Dan's comments just speak, but I have to. I'm compelled. This is my downfall. I don't know when to stop talking. But look, let me just lead with this.
Maybe that's why we get along. I've always been told that my whole life. Yeah.
I know. Well, I have second grade report cards that show that. Here's what I'll say. Live by the woke stunt, DEI by the woke stunt. That's my die by the look, when you played that clip, count 7 seconds while she's talking and he starts interrupting. It's 7 seconds before he admits who he is. That's number one. Okay. To Dan's point, he went there dressed down. Right. He went there as a stunt. Let's just start with that. He wanted this moment to occur. That's why he did this. He's a United States Senator.
Sorry, no. Just want to be factual. He went there for a meeting and found out she was there. So he didn't go.
No. But my point is that if you're a United States Senator and you say, I have a meeting, and they say, I'm sorry, the secretary's in a press conference, we'll be with you in 10 minutes or whatever, you say, great, can I just sit and scroll Instagram?
I understand,
or call my staff.
But I'm just saying, I just want to just be factual. He didn't go dressed down to confront her dressed down.
No. But my point is that for everyone who says he identified himself, okay, so I'll back up and rephrase this. The bottom line is that if he wanted to have a conversation or have his issues addressed as a United States Senator, there's a multitude of ways in which that can be done. Interrupting a press conference is not one of them. So that's number one. Number two, just because, to Dan's point about the detail, you don't, after 7 seconds of moving forward on a protectee and then saying, he didn't say I'm United States Senator. He said, I'm Senator Alex Padilla. You don't go, oh, I'm sorry, arms off. That's not how it works. If they feel there's a threat, they're going to do it. They're going to neutralize the threat. We're in the middle of people attacking federal agents, destroying federal property. Just because you say, I'm Alex Padilla, they don't go, oh, I'm sorry, sir. Go ahead. Please attack the protectee. Please charge her. That's not how this works. You went after a federal protectee, they're going to react. He wanted that to happen. Let's just be clear what he wanted, right? That's number one. And I think Dan's absolutely right. The details are agnostic. They're like, there's someone that we're protecting, there's a threat that's coming out. And just because you say you're a senator, do you think that, how many times, do you know how many people came to the RNC when I was walking there and said, I'm a king, I'm a prince? Do you think the security said, oh, well, sir, just please go on back, go upstairs to see the chairman? I worked on the Hill for 14 different members of Congress. Do you know how many times nut jobs come in and go, I'm so-and-so? You don't, just because he said he was Senator Alex Padilla, the detail doesn't go, oh, I'm sorry, sir, please just go ahead and interrupt the press conference.
John
This is
right
ridiculous. They have a
right.
right and an obligation to protect the person. He
Yeah.
knew what he was doing. And I think that this is, again, if you want to play, I love a good stunt. I'm all for them. I'm a huge fan of them. But at the end of the day, if you want to play the stunt, you can die by the stunt. And that's what he did yesterday.
Right.
Look,
Two.
I just don't think, to your point, I will say this, the last point I'll make is this is just like how we talked about the riots, okay? There were federal agents going to work. A Democrat assemblyman started this. He incited a mob to come. And the same way that this happened, the media is lying about how this went down. They're acting like he showed up and got handcuffed. They didn't play the entire clip as we just did. The way that Axios and Politico and the New York Times and CNN are playing this off is unbelievably, it is so dishonest and misinformation. It's unbelievable. This didn't just happen. He got handcuffed.
Two questions for you. One, should they have handcuffed him the way they did once he was out in the hall?
Absolutely. Yes, that is protocol. You don't just go, oh, I'm sorry, you said you're Alex Padilla, please. That protocol is to neutralize the threat.
Okay.
They didn't have his ID. He didn't walk out and say, here's my federal ID. I'm
second,
Alex Padilla.
if you take the balance of power in the messaging wars related to what's going on in Southern California and deportations, did the events of involving Senator Padilla change the balance of power in either side's favor?
No. And does this benefit us? No. Does it benefit the Dems? No. But I will just, one last point that I'll make. If this happened on Capitol Hill, if Senator Padilla was giving a press conference and somebody charged him while he was giving it, do you not think Capitol Police would stop that person and do the absolute same thing? Of course they would. This is I get a kick out of the way this has happened. They would stop the person just because they show up. And do you know how many times in the last 5 years people have been, that the left has weaponized the DOJ. They've arrested nuns and gone after people for showing up at events. I'm sorry, there's crocodile tears coming from the left right now.
Yeah, I disagree with both of you. I think it's a mild advantage for the Democrats, only because not on the merits, but I think they're united and they're rallying around him and they're feeling the energy and emotion that helps in politics. They've got something to rally around now that they feel they like their version of the story. Dan.
But the only thing that makes me worried, Mark, I agree with you for the reasons that I said earlier, is what the Democrats are now going with is like, this is totalitarianism. It's
correct.
And that I don't think resonates, because at the end of the day, they stood him up. They ultimately took the handcuffs off. He met with Noam and he goes about his business.
Right.
I think, we've tried this like totalitarianism message for a year now. I don't think that resonates, but I agree with you. It's going to animate people. I'm sure this weekend there'll be signs and t-shirts.
Yes, exactly. So speaking of accusations of totalitarianism, Sean and I were totally wrong. A good reminder never to predict judges, justices, or juries. The district court judge, Judge Breyer.
Were we?
Well, the Court of Appeals has stayed his decision, but I thought you were saying what I was saying, which was there's no judge could possibly have ruled the way he did.
Correct. Yeah. All right.
We were wrong. We were wrong.
Yeah.
And he ruled not only against what we thought any judge would do, but he ruled so decisively that people are saying the 3-judge panel in the Court of Appeals or the Court of Appeals will overturn him, because he went very far in saying not just a close call, whatever. He basically said Trump's acting like a king. We don't have kings, which is perhaps a coincidence that tomorrow they're doing their Kings event. But anyway, unless you guys want to say something about that, we don't need to talk about it, because it's all incremental. It's just a few decisions. There'll be more to go to the Supreme Court. Sean.
The only thing I am a little shocked based on his previous rulings in areas like this, that he used the word king, because I said this yesterday and I stand by this. I think the White House has done a really good job of making it clear about the role of the troops to protect federal assets. They have gone out of their way to make sure that they were specific in the authorities of these federalized troops to protect federal assets. And I actually thought that Breyer would be much more saying, I don't agree with this, the court, blah, 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 but in this instance, they have the right. For him to go 36 pages of the other way, I almost feel like I truly was shocked about that. And I mean, the Ninth Circuit, I was actually more even worried about where the Ninth Circuit would go. Obviously, they got the right 3 judges there, and there's no question. I think we can all agree that the Supreme Court's going to come down on the side of Trump on this.
I think so, but I will say what I've said throughout, not just related to immigration, but so many of these areas. These judges, if they want to be a co-equal branch, get in gear. Don't do the hearing Tuesday. Do the hearing today. Putting this stuff off. The real world is happening. Things are happening that may be slightly reversible, but not fully reversible. District Court, Circuit Court, Supreme Court, move faster on these things, because you're standing in the way of actual life. Dan.
I totally 100% agree with you.
It's funny. It's funny you say that, Mark. I will admit I've not spent. I honestly don't even understand what the Karen Reed trial is. But I didn't even know.
It's going to the jury. It's going to the jury today.
So that's why I bring it up. Is that this morning I've heard it in the background for days. I honestly probably learned more in the last hour than I have in the last 2 weeks. But it's happening, probably about an hour north of me here. And to your point, off your last point, the judge made it clear, hey, jury, you're going to start deliberating today on a nice New England Friday because I don't want to wait. And yet, if we can start the Karen Reed trial on a Friday afternoon on a nice beach weekend, then why can't these guys get their act together?
Tuesday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, too late. All right, quickly on the parade. It's supposed to rain. Dan, if you were a staff director of the parade and it's going to pour rain, what would you do?
I'd go forward. The Army doesn't not march when it's raining. You do it.
Well, but how's the press area going to explain the crowd size?
To me, this whole thing is silly. He wants to do a parade, do a parade.
Oh, it's actually better. If it rains, it's better. I mean, because then you can blame it on the rain. But remember, the Marine Corps, if it's raining, we're training. So
I mean, that's it. I actually think it's awesome. If you want to just say this is really about honoring the military, if I were Trump, I'd stand in the monsoon if it's raining and salute as they go by, because they're marching. I'm in the rain. It's about you, not me. And forget the crowd size. Like, do it.
Okay. All right. We're going to do winners, losers, and what to look for this weekend. If you'd like to get in on the conversation with peace, love, and understanding in your heart, and the presumption of grace for both Secretary Noem and for Senator Padilla, please raise your hand if you're here on the two-way platform. And if you're on YouTube or X, I haven't looked at the chat because I don't, but I happen to know there's smack galore going in there. So please.
It's a Friday.
Ixnay on the Axmay. All right. Because of a special request, we're starting with losers this week, not winners. Sean, who's your loser of the week?
Well, there's a lot to choose from. I actually was hoping to go second or even third on this because I figured most of mine might be taken. But I will just, assuming that you guys choose some of the ones that I was going with, I'm going overseas and choosing Greta Thunberg to be the loser of the week. She committed another one of these Alex Padilla-esque stunts, and she got sent home, and she said, I was treated inhumanely. And when the media asked her, give us an example of how you were treated inhumanely, she said, I wasn't allowed to say goodbye. And I thought, that is a travesty, Greta.
Dan, loser of the week.
All right, Gavin Newsom, because in the long run, this has not been good for him.
Yeah. Loser of the week are anyone who's interested in nuclear weapon development or leadership in Iran, because they're all either dead or about to die. Sean, winner of the week.
I'm gonna hat tip the Army. I think the winner tomorrow, hopefully is all of the individuals who've served and supported the U.S. Army over the last 250 years, and I hope tomorrow is an opportunity to celebrate them. And so I'll give them, just with everything else happening in the world and the country, let's celebrate the people who keep the freedom.
Dan.
All right, the chat, you're all going to go back now 180 degrees because I'm watching it. The winner of the week is also Gavin Newsom. And that is because, yes, he is the loser of the week and the winner of the week. I think this might be a first.
Impossible.
Because within the Democratic Party, the court ruling in his favor, at least at the end of this week, he can say, like, I told you so, because Sean, your point, it was very definitive. The Padilla thing is energizing the party. The party was not unified at his back all week. He was kind of alone.
Could the winner, could Dan, the winner be California?
Well, so if you're Gavin Newsom and you want to run for president or think about running for president, you are ending the week with the party rallied behind the cause now. They're going to have parade, people out there in the streets marching. The court ruled in your favor. So to win a primary, he is the winner of the week. To win a general, he's the loser of the week.
Okay, but Dan, let me just ask you this. Who do you think, knowing that, I would, from your perspective, not mine, I think that Padilla outdid him. I think that Padilla, from a stunt perspective, got more of the Democrats fired up. Newsom didn't do anything, right? He just cheered it on, whereas I think Padilla said, I'm standing up to Trump. I'm Spartacus.
Well, it's all the same thing. Look, I know you guys mocked it, but if you look on the left, the last 48 hours, at him saying Trump has lost a step, he fell on the stairs. I know you guys say, okay, it's bullshit, the guy's like a horse. But to blue America, nobody's had the balls to do this to Trump.
But that's what I'm saying. But that's why I'm asking you. I think that if I were on your side, I would say that Padilla did a better job of showing some kind of backbone than Gavin Newsom. I mean, he actually showed up at a press conference. He got handcuffed. Gavin Newsom went out there and said, "Lock me up." Padilla actually did it.
All right. Winner of the week, Dr. Morton H. Halperin, the big trifecta. Debut appearance on Next Up, my new program on the Megyn Kelly Network, celebrating his birthday today and of course Father's Day on Sunday. Happy birthday, Dad. Sean, what are you looking for this weekend?
By the way, do you get him 2 gifts or 1? How does this work? Do you just get a bigger gift and say it's for both, or do you split it?
I basically do what Dan does on winner and loser. 0, because they cancel each other out. No, 1 gift.
I just figured, just
1 gift, and it's on the way. It's coming. Today's his birthday. Sunday's Father's Day. He's getting his gift on Saturday. Hope he's not watching.
Is that just out of curiosity? Is that gift a 2-way shirt?
It's not. It's something he actually wants. All right, Sean, what are you looking for?
Okay, wow. See, I would think a nice fairway and green shirt would be something I would want, but I guess look, what I'm
it's a 2-way part I was making fun of.
What I'm looking for this weekend, obviously a lot of things. I'm looking for the escalation or the next steps in Israel and Iran. Again, I was hoping that I'd go last because you guys would take all these, but I actually am unfortunately looking for what groups go out there and protest this weekend. This is an opportunity to rally around the service and sacrifice of the Army. And the only reason, by the way, for all those people out there who understand why I care about this is because the Navy and Marine Corps is going to get their due on their 250th anniversary later this year in Philadelphia. So I'm just trying to make sure that if I can say nice things about the Army, then I don't feel bad when I get all excited about the Navy and the Marine Corps. But I am absolutely going to take note, and I hope groups on the right take note of anyone who goes out there and tries to turn this event into a political one. It's sad, it's pathetic that so many people have served this country and people are using it as an opportunity to make it into something it's not. President Trump hasn't made this about him. He hasn't made this about his birthday. Everyone on the left of the media is, and it's sad and pathetic that they're doing this as opposed to an opportunity to honor the service and sacrifice of so many millions of Americans.
Dan, what are you looking for this weekend?
Well, a little bit of a twist on that. I am watching to see if these protests from the Democratic Party stay peaceful. Does it serve as a rally point kind of going forward that so many people are coming out? Or do they start to turn violent or, there's conflict or whatever? Because that imagery would not be good. I think one thing that's interesting, these parades are kind of all over the place, not the parade, but the protests. Like I don't sense there is a central theme to them. So I'm just going to be curious to see kind of what comes out of it, because to your point, Mark, the party's fired up today.
I hope, look, this is where the right has an opportunity politically to sort of contrast with what the Dems are doing. And I hope that they take advantage of this. I hope that people expose what the Democrats are doing this weekend and not just sit back and let it go.
I'm looking forward to the validation of those wise people who said Indiana in 6 and that Oklahoma City was amongst the most overrated teams of the last quarter century. There you go. Megan, welcome in. Tell folks who don't know where you are what's on your mind for Sean and Dan. Thank you for being part of Two Way.
Wow. First time. I am
very glad to have you here.
I'm in very, very Northern California. And a couple evenings ago, I was listening to your evening show, and you had a newscaster on from LA talking about the riots and how it was just a 1 square mile area that was rioting. My family, my parents lost their business in a fire a couple years ago. And thank goodness they had really good insurance that covered everything. And we talk about real lives and real people. And I don't think people understand how devastating it is. And they had insurance and rebuilt and everything is great. But it wasn't just them that suffered, but all of their employees and everybody that makes their living and their livelihood. And just, I feel like we're so stuck on this, what side is right or whatever, when it really needs to be looking at, what's good for people and our citizens. So that's just kind of a comment. And I love you all. I think you're great. I really enjoy the conversation that everybody brings forward.
Yeah, you're very nice. And a family business being destroyed, even with insurance, is obviously just a heartbreaking thing. And I think one of the failures of people in the media, not all, but many, is personal properties destroyed by people on the left, and they just don't cover it. They just don't treat it like what it is, which is not just a violation of law, but in many cases a shattering of blood, sweat, and tears and a family dream. So I couldn't agree with you more. Dan.
Yeah, Megan, I was just about to say the same thing, that you just make such a simplistic but kind of perfect point, which is why I think the Democratic Party, when these things have happened the last several years, have ultimately lost public opinion. Because people just look at it and say, my gosh, the store, everyone has a Main Street, everyone has a business district. To see glass shattered, I remember Washington, D.C., after the Black Lives Matter marches, we walked to the end, a couple blocks down from our house what was a busy business corridor. And there were chairs through windows. There was glass all over the sidewalks, like whether it was a Wawa or a, Gap or whatever. Like it was unbelievable. And I think most people look at that, their heart breaks, and they get kind of angry, right? Whatever the cause was or is, it isn't heard as clearly when violence like that happens. And so I think it's a great point.
Megan, thank you.
Yeah.
Sean.
Thank you.
Totally agree. Appreciate you coming on, Megan. Thanks for your kind words about the program. I agree with you. One of these, I mean, to Dan's point, when I remember after the BLM protest, right outside my office was this homeless man that had built this little encampment, and they burned it. And he's never come back. I don't know whatever happened to the guy, but it's like for people on the left that supposedly care about other people and those that are disadvantaged, the lack of concern for what this does to not just, big businesses. Like you watch these Apple stores get looted, and I'm sure they've got insurance. I remember on 15th Street, near where my old office was, we'd walk into the CVS and there isn't anything that's not behind plastic. There's a Walmart that was in, it's like 8th and Mass or 6th, 7th and Mass. And it closed. And I said something like about a week ago to somebody. I said, God, it's crazy. I would assume a Walmart would have done well right there in DC. And they said, I don't know that it had to do with that. They go, do you know how often people were just looting the crap out of it and the cops couldn't do anything? And yet Democrats are now excusing crime. And I don't get it. Where is the outrage? I mean, looting an Apple store in downtown LA, what does that have to do with ICE? What does that have to do with deportation? What does that have to do with anything? And yet there's not a single person that I've heard condemn any of that. Not one. And I just think that that's sad and pathetic. And again, the media, the only coverage they've given this is when their own trucks get damaged. And then it's all because it's about them. And that's the only time they care about, this destruction is when it affects them and their ability to do something, or that the fact that they stole an AirPod out of their news truck.
Megan, how'd you find two-way?
I was listening to another podcast and they mentioned your show. And so I've been listening, probably since about January, February. I love it. And I want to give a shout out to my son who is active duty Air Force. So I'm sure he's going to be busy with the stuff that's going on right now.
All right. Well, congratulations on your son, and grateful to you and for him. Thank you so much. All right. Owen, rather. We don't have great insurance here, so don't crash.
No, it's fine.
All right. Where are you driving today, sir?
I'm Austin, Texas. So just here about like 500 feet from the door. So figured I'd chime in with my question. I was curious, kind of looking back. I know you guys kind of called this Iran mission early on, but I was kind of curious. Looking back, you kind of look at Trump's trip to the Middle East, where suddenly he's like meeting with the president of Syria and reducing sanctions and all this kind of stuff. And if you kind of look at the flight plan that I would guess, where the pilots would fly, do you think this is like kind of longer in the works? I was never really a Trump five-dimensional chess player type of guy, but kind of thinking about it, do you think this was like longer in the works and they're kind of clearing the zone for this possible operation months ago like that, at that level?
I do.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah, totally. I mean, I think if you look back at a lot of stuff, and some of the reporting today is that the Trump administration posture the last few weeks or months of a rift with Israel, etc., was all a smoke screen to make the Iranians think this wasn't imminent. The Trump people have not confirmed nor denied that was the case. But the fact that Bibi came here a month or two ago and he went to the CIA, the Pentagon, like, you don't go there to take the tour, right? Presumably he went there to have conversations.
Sean.
They do have a good gift shop though.
Great gift shop.
I mean, I think it's a very we'll know, who knows, in a few years, maybe. It's a great question. I think I mentioned I met with him when he was here. So you add that to the list: CIA, Pentagon, me.
Spicer.
Right.
Yeah.
That's why the comms plan's been so good, right, Sean?
That's right. But it was funny, the level, I was actually really taken back to the level of calmness that he had about where things stood. And maybe that had something to do with it, but it's an interesting question that hopefully history will reveal.
Yeah. Owen, thank you. Grateful to you. Please walk inside carefully. Drew, welcome in. Tell folks who don't know where you are what's on your mind after you unmute.
Wow, I have so many things I could ask. Thank you. I love the show. I'm on here.
Are you a cool Drew? Are you a cool dad?
Yeah. Are you a cool dad?
Okay, so not yet. My first baby boy is due in November. My wife got this for me for Father's Day.
Awesome.
That's awesome.
Just so excited.
Okay. Is there any chance that that's Mark what you got your dad?
I have no comment, but it's not that color. Drew, where do you live?
Central Virginia.
All right. I've got only one piece of advice for you. Start learning to swaddle now.
Yeah.
Start learning
yeah.
now. Don't wait. Don't wait till the last minute. That's it.
Yeah.
That's the whole key to parenting, at least the first few weeks. What's on your mind, Drew? Take your time. Ask whatever you want.
One statement, just as a super into military history, the operational success of the Israelis, what they've been able to do against Hezbollah and now Iran is just, it's mind-boggling.
It's unprecedented in human history. There's never been anyone like the Israelis marrying up intel, human intelligence, surveillance, and military capability. There's not a country that we know of in civilization history who can do what they do. It's quite something.
Just completely neutering Iran's response. I've saw that they have sent only like 100 drones over. Like, you'd think that they would respond a little bit more adequately, in my opinion. Not that I want that. I'm just saying, you'd think that they would. Okay, my question is actually related to the dad part. Two kind of points. The child tax credit that was talked about during the election. I think they talked about, I remember Kamala maybe it said like 5K and JD was like 4 or something like that. I don't remember exactly what the numbers were. I saw that Trump did between 2024 and 2029 was like $1,000. That's the first part of what, is that going to come to fruition, do you think? Second is, has there been any talk of anywhere, you guys are much more in the know, on anything looking at like maternity leave or paternity leave? I work for a decent sized company, and it's pretty bad. And, as someone who wants to experience all the joys of early parenthood, I'm concerned. And I don't hear a lot of people talk about that.
Yeah.
So I was just wondering.
Two important topics that you speak for millions when you raise concern about them. Sean, what do you know about the prospect of an increased child tax credit and or family paternity, maternity leave?
I believe the last I checked, there was something in the bill on an increase on child tax credit. To your point about the sunset, I don't know if I don't think it was made permanent. So I think it's a sunsetted clause, meaning it will only last for probably 5 years. But I don't know. And that's, I think if you've heard, if you've been a watcher for a while, part of my whole shtick was that tax on tips and Social Security and some of these things are more political talking points where you can stick something in a bill and have a higher threshold. The income is always the issue too. So it'll say, well, you have to make this much. And then, like, let's say it's a $5,000 tax credit. If you make over 150 combined, it goes to 4,200. It goes to, and then it'll close. So like, let's say you make 250,000, you're not even eligible for it. And then time wise, it sunsets after a certain amount, because all of this stuff goes into, when we talk about stuff called the score, the CBO, the OMB, the Joint Tax Committee, when it scores something, that has to do with how much it costs. And so anyway, the point is, I think it's in there. There's an increase. I don't know for how long or what the window is or what the income threshold is. There is no current talk that I'm aware of on a substantive level on an increase of maternity or paternity leave. One of the issues that you're bringing up, Drew, is there's the federal government piece of this, and then there's what private companies can do. And so you have like Family Medical Leave Act, which allows a percentage of depending again on the size of your company. So small businesses, are exempted from many provisions, but Family Medical Leave Act does allow certain provisions to take time off, and then a percentage of your salary gets paid, but it's not full salary. So you have to then balance how you do that. And it's just, there's that's again, from a Republican standpoint, we got talked about yesterday, minimum wage, same kind of thing. It's how much do you want to impose on small business. So I understand your concern. When I was in the military, I was on active duty when both of my kids were born, and we didn't have paternity leave. So I feel your pain, depending on where you work, that's an issue. But I will say this, I think the environment on the private sector is getting much more favorable to trying to offer benefits, including those things, to make people want to stay at their companies.
Dan.
Drew, they're expanding it the proposal is to expand it from 2,000 to 2,500 per child, and then phase it out, or it would expire in 3 years. Why do they have it expire? It's so popular that it becomes a great bargaining chip in 3 years. So if the Democrats, although this is becoming bipartisan, you want that reauthorized, here's our price for reauthorization. So they just use it as a bargaining chip. Shouldn't be that way, but frankly, both parties do this all the time. It's why really popular stuff, constantly is sunsetting, like tax cuts for, the middle class, right? You tie it to the tax cuts for the rich, which are more controversial, and, don't let them expire. On the second point, look, Democrats would absolutely love to do that. I think as MAGA continues to ascend and becomes more of a working class party, these are the type of issues, I'll be curious if a JD Vance were to talk about this in 2028, because to your point, the big companies can afford it. It's small and medium-sized companies that don't want to do it because it hits their bottom line, but it may be the right thing to do and people would appreciate it.
Drew, thank you for coming. Good luck with everything with the baby. Come back, let us know how it's going.
I will be back. Thank you.
And if you don't take my swaddling advice, you're not as bright as you look. Dan, welcome in. Is this your first time on here?
It is, Mark. Thank you very much.
All right.
And I think other than Ms. Taylor, who we had on the call earlier in the week, I may be having the longest digital commute here. I'm in São Martinho de Porto, Portugal. Moved here 2 years ago.
Where'd you live in the U.S., Dan?
We lived in Los Angeles.
Great. Well, welcome in. I'm glad to have you here. Thanks for
Why'd you go to
raising your hand.
Portugal?
It was kind of a retirement plan, Sean. So we've been looking to a place to retire outside of the U.S. Have a little bit of a different adventure for the last, hopefully, long chapter of life. And it's a great place to live, great place to visit.
Dan, are you inviting us to come stay with you? Is that what that meant?
I'm getting there. I'm getting there, Mark.
Go ahead.
Yeah, no, it's really a wonderful place. And I want to echo Megan's comments earlier. Love the show. Love the civil conversation that you guys have. Dan, I'm formally on your side of the line, but I've moved to the other side of the line. I'm one of those guys that feels like the Democrat Party left me. And the question that I have for you, Dan, and for all three of you, but really, Dan, I am the Biden administration's silence and really inaction relative to the campus protests and the sort of lack of leadership from the Democrat side. I don't know if that's President Obama or Ms. Pelosi or Mr. Schumer, but the lack of comment relative to the Boulder attacks and the DC attack or murders. Just curious about your thoughts of that. Why are we not seeing some leadership relative to what seems to be such morally clear issues? And anti-Semitism seems to be on the rise.
Thank you, Dan. Dan.
Yeah, great question. I do think there was pretty unified condemnation of what happened in DC and Boulder. Some elements of the party had to be dragged to be charitable to make statements, and they, probably could have been a little stronger, but 90% of the party was there. Your other point, though, is a great one. I mean, between immigration and the college campus protests, it was the same issue. The party is divided, and as people were heading into 2024, they did not, and they knew it was going to be a very close election. They felt like they could not afford slippage with any of their coalition members. They thought that if they kind of tried to finesse this and make both sides happy, or that they could make both sides happy, as is often the case when you attempt to do that, you made nobody happy. And I think that the kind of moral right thing to do, in my opinion, to condemn the violence, you can support the cause of what they were talking about, but you can't allow violence or shutting campuses down. It's a problem. And when the party keeps talking about we need to change, we need to confront the base, we need to, move on. But so far, when we've had opportunities to do it, we don't. And that is kind of just, heartbreaking and frustrating as a Democrat who hopes the party kind of rights itself and this is where I think it'll be interesting on Iran, and same thing on immigration. For all the talk of Trump is a tyrant, the fundamental issue gets back to what do you do about illegal immigration? And the party doesn't want to have that conversation, even though it's probably more of the winner.
Yeah. Dan, thank you. Grateful to you for coming on. Sean, what do you have tonight?
Award-winning journalist Cheryl Atkinson. We talk about the media, a lot to talk about there, but then also specifically Big Pharma and its role in shaping the narratives and covering up stories. So excited for that.
All right. Thanks for those of you who raised your hand and didn't get on today. Apologize, just up against the clock, and grateful to everybody who came on this week. Two ways left today. And we may do some breaking news as well, so stand by for that. But 4 o'clock, if you have not watched Ethan's show yet, I recommend it to you. Random Offense. Ethan's guest today, Ryan Glass-Steagall, Front Office Sports, and they're going to talk about
Front Office Sports.
Yeah, Front Office Sports is good.
To follow. Yep,
it's good. So again, please sample Ethan's show if you haven't. And 4 o'clock today, you watch it on the two-way platform or on YouTube streaming live or on demand. And then I'll be back at 6 tonight, and we'll have all the latest news from the Middle East and here in the United States, including the Abrego Garcia hearing, which is in the federal building in Nashville, which is named after, guys, who's the federal building in Nashville named after?
Ooh.
Any idea?
Bill Frist?
Nope.
Al Gore.
Nope.
It's Al Gore Sr.
Nope.
Peyton Manning.
I'll give you a hint. Law and Order.
Sam Watterson.
Fred Thompson.
Fred Thompson.
Fred Thompson Federal Building. Anyway, we'll see that, and the three of us will be back Monday morning for this program, and at some point between now and then, we'll have a program announcement for you about a new show, and we look forward to sharing that with you. But very grateful to you for being part of the two-way community, and hope you have a great weekend. And don't forget to go on that WhatsApp chat, because I'm telling you, they're breaking news there every second.
Happy Flag Day, Happy Father's Day. We had a lot. Happy anniversary of the Army. This is a big weekend.
It's a big weekend.
A lot of gifts.
Clouds rolling in, Sean.
And the
look as nice right now.
The Pacers go up 3-1. Insurmountable tonight.
Again,
thank you, everybody. Season. Gentlemen, I'll see you in a little bit. We've got a meeting. Looking forward to it.
See you soon.
What a week.